All right, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us today here at The Future Is Now, which is a great title for us to talk to you about Backstroke and what we're building. So thanks for being here, and hopefully the next 30 minutes or so will help you understand the future of generative messaging and what we're building at Backstroke. I'm RJ Tallier. I'm the CEO and founder of Backstroke. I am a 20-year MarTech veteran. I got my start at ExactTarget, worked at Salesforce after the acquisition where I was a VP of messaging, and I ran our messaging teams. After that, I went and started a company called Pattern 89 that would predict what you would click on Instagram or Facebook. And I sold that company to Shutterstock. And now if you go and play around with Shutterstock.ai, that is Pattern 89. So if you combine the AI and creativity pieces with all of the messaging background that I've got, it had to be. Backstroke is a generative messaging platform that uses the most advanced generative AI to create all the stuff that we used to be doing manually back in the day. And we've gotten our start in April, and we're off to a strong start at Backstroke. And I can't wait to show you where we are, and also, more importantly, where we're headed. Now, a lot of people ask me about Backstroke, and something else you should know about me is that I'm a swimmer. I grew up swimming, and swimming is a wonderful sport. I love swimming. I still swim. I swam in college. I swam yesterday. I'm swimming in Chicago in a little bit, this lake swim. And swimming's a super boring sport. I mean, it's just back and forth on the black line. But what you learn from swimming is perseverance, tenacity, and I just recommend it to everybody. But it's also one of the reasons that Backstroke's called Backstroke. And also Backstroke.com was affordable within a startup budget. So that's why we're called Backstroke. And let me tell you a little bit more about us. The first thing that I know in building a successful startup starts with the team. And this is our crew. We're 5 strong, soon to be 6. And all of these folks I've worked with before. They have extensive experience in digital marketing, in data science, in leading design teams, and it's so important to have a team around you that can really help execute the vision as well as working closely with our customers. So if you work with Backstroke or you follow along with us, you're going to see a lot of these 5 folks as well as our newest team member, and we're so thrilled to be working with you. And here's a picture of us in front of the pool I grew up swimming at. So kind of a fun throwback in addition to showing off the team. And side note, non-tech world, but drowning is actually the #1 cause of death for all children under the age of 5 in the United States. And I love swimming. I grew up taking swim lessons. I taught swim lessons, and it's really sad and shocking to know that some people still don't have access to swim lessons. So by you being here today, we're donating $10 a swim lesson to 2 different groups. One operates in the tri-state area called Stand By Me, and it's run by the former Olympian, Anthony Irvin, 2-time Olympian, and he is a pretty amazing individual himself. You should check him out. The second is a little bit more near and dear to my heart, which is the Riviera Foundation, which is where I learned how to swim, and we're donating a swim lesson to them as well on your behalf. So teaching some of those folks to swim, especially those that have not had the chance because of their background or access to pools. So thanks for checking those organizations out and supporting them alongside Backstroke. All right, so let's dig in. You want to see the future of generative messaging, and I'm so excited to show you. We've got all sorts of stuff to show you today. The first of which is just a little preamble. And what we know is that the best brands, think of the best brands that you work with, the best brands are speaking in their customers' language. And what we found over and over and over again is that that language actually is a little bit different depending on who you are as a customer. Are you a first-time customer, a multi-time customer? Are you a loyal customer? Those types of things, as well as how old are you? What gender are you? Where do you come from in the world? And when I was at ExactTarget, we worked with giant brands like Best Buy, like Expedia, Home Depot, and we would talk about one-to-one marketing. And the challenge was that you couldn't actually create the amount of content needed to speak in your customer's language at a one-to-one basis. We could tell you the proclivity to buy, we could do all sorts of cool things, but to create the content was the limiter. And Now, with the advancements in generative AI, if I have 1 million people on my list, I can actually generate a version of the same content for each person on my list, finally allowing marketers to deliver on this best brands speak their customers' language promise, which we all know. Instead of speaking in our customers' language today, what we're doing is we're doing the grunt work. And in the last 20 years, creating an email, creating a text message, creating a push campaign hasn't changed that much. We still have to upload a list, we still have to drag and drop content, then we send a test to a test list internally. Hopefully you're clicking on the links, you're talking to the commerce team, you're talking to your website folks, you're testing deliverability, etc. It's just grunt work. And it's important grunt work because it's a fuel for all of the B2C businesses that we work with, but it's still a lot of the same. It's work that can be done with headphones on, with music playing. It doesn't require our brains to engage or think creatively. It's just we got to get that campaign out the door because I got to meet with the boss on Monday and tell them how the campaign did. So this grunt work is very important, but our human brains can be doing all sorts of more important creative and strategic thinking. So that's why we think there's an opportunity for a platform like Backstroke to really power one-to-one messaging in a way that's never been done before. About 3 years ago, when I sold the company to Shutterstock, I started signing up for every email marketing program that I could find. So if you're on this call, I probably signed up for your email marketing program about 3 years ago. It was what my wife and I would do in the evenings, sadly. What we did is we built up this giant data set. It now has over 12,000 brands in it, and we can see by vertical, by sub-vertical, by price, by target audience, what are the types of trends that are emerging and falling week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter, and year over year. And if you think 3 years ago, we were still kind of in the heart of COVID. Marketing is a lot different than it was 3 years ago. But what things have actually stayed the same? What have been the same? What's different? We've used natural language processing, computer vision, all sorts of tagging to understand all of those trends. And then we've used that data to fine-tune a GPT-4 model with all of that data that is performant to the tune of between 14 and 64% higher revenue per email for all of our customers. Pretty wild. So on average, our customers see around a 31% lift because they're getting one-to-one messaging paired with the audience that's most predictive to convert on that. So in a sentence, what we do is we generate on-brand and performant one-to-one messaging. Finally, we can deliver on that promise of one-to-one, and we're doing it with Backstroke. Let me tell you a little bit more. So we know that each person on your list, they act very, very differently, sometimes in ways that we wouldn't expect. But there are different emotions that they care about, as well as different syntactical drivers. So I have a master's in English. I'm going to say words like syntactical drivers when we talk. So if you think about things like emojis or all caps or where a verb appears in a sentence, those are all things that have to do with syntax. And in addition to signing up for over 12,000 brands worth of campaigns, we've done extensive modeling on what actually drives performance for those individuals. So when you start with Backstroke, we'll append data to your subscriber list if you don't have it already, helping us to understand what demographic or other profiling information we can use to understand who they are, and then we match that with how many emojis do they typically like to see in a subject line? Do they like to see capitalization in their pre-header? What are the types of emotions that are actually going to drive them to do something? Is it fear or is it joy? If you market a lot to the Gen Y audience, you're actually going to see a lot of sadness in their subject lines. It's, I think, a byproduct of Taylor Swift era. Who knows? But those are the types of dimensions that the machines, the AI, can help us understand and take the same message and then generate alternatives that are actually predicted to perform. So we can really go from an audience to an individual. And what we'll do is we'll define a campaign goal alongside you within Backstroke. And you can define that campaign goal as everything from I want to drive revenue, I want to drive clicks, I want to drive loyalty, and we'll generate one-to-one messages specifically for everyone on your list that's predicted to perform specifically for that audience. And then the best thing is that the model trains itself. Once you deploy, we learn, and then we further fine-tune or augment the model for each individual customer. And because we have this giant data set where we have access to 12,000 of your competitors or those people that you also have customers buying from. We can learn what works for you in comparison to your competitors or what's different, as well as a fine-tuned model specifically for you. Make sense? All right, good. Okay, so I have 4 kids. You might have children, or you might be tapping on your dashboard behind the school bus, waiting for the school bus to drop kids off. But anyway, it's back to school time, so that means it's time for a pop quiz. So this is the part, if you're on the webinar, you've got to pay attention, because I'm going to ask you a question, and you are going to put your answer in the chat, if you so dare. So the question in this pop quiz is, which of these email subject lines was generated by artificial intelligence? Is it A, B, C, or D? Which one do you think was generated by AI? You can pop your answer into the chat if you want to commit. Okay. All right, okay, I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. Which of those 4 subject lines was written by artificial intelligence? Okay, well, if you guessed A, you're correct. The first one was actually generated by artificial intelligence. The other 3, I wrote. So, it's interesting when I've shared this with other customers, they'll say things like, oh, it's a trick question. None of them were written by AI. Or it's a trick question. All of them were written by AI. Or they'll say things like, oh, I think it's that flame emoji. Or the word lit. Those types of things. We start to put our human dimension on these types of things. And I actually did a survey out to 1,000 consumers in the US and asked them the same exact question. Which of these subject lines was generated by AI? And 83% of them got the question wrong. So 83% of consumers don't know which subject line was generated by AI, or they were just guessing. And if you look at just chance, you would expect this number to be around 75%, because they would have guessed 1 in 4. But actually, we're over-guessing. We're over-trying to figure out, and we're thinking, oh, I think I know that one. But what's interesting as marketers is that we have to contend with an audience where 37% of our consumers say that they're less likely to buy from us if there's AI involved. So there's sort of this negative feeling. There's a bunch of folks in the middle where they're indifferent, but 37% of people say, I'm not going to buy if AI is involved. So there's sort of this negative thing, but actually if you ask them if AI is involved, they can't tell. So we as marketers have to use strategy, judgment, ethics, morals, brand, our own voice to figure out what is actually going to work for our brand, and that's where we have evolved our business and evolved our jobs as marketers here. So smart leaders, if you're on this call, you're one of them. We know that we should be implementing AI. Artificial intelligence is the rage. I mean, we can't go 5 minutes without hearing about it. KPMG says 70% of people, of executives, actually list it as a top priority. If you take a look at what Sam Altman said in March, a lot of marketing tasks will be gone. And our jobs will be largely changed if you believe this sentence, where he says that 95% of what marketers do will easily, nearly instantly, and almost at no cost be handled by AI. That gives me a little bit of a stomach drop. I don't know about you. But again, what our job will do is not the grunt work. We're not going to be uploading lists or dragging and dropping content. Instead, we're going to be brand stewards, strategists, understanding how to apply this tool, like others, to execute on our marketing targets. And we know that only 34% of people are actually implementing AI. So again, by being on this live stream today, you are ahead of your peers, and we need to stay ahead. This is where the early adopters take the advantage and continue to have that advantage. So stay on this call, find ways to partner with Backstroke as well as other AI solutions, because this is the future, this is where we're headed, and we've got to figure out how to make it work. So as we make it work, marketers, we are used to acronyms, right? We've got all sorts of acronyms and a language all of our own. What I've found through working at Pattern 89 and now at Backstroke is that the language that I use is very, very different from the language that's used by data scientists. And so it's really, really important for us to have a common language where we can ask questions and get the right answers to those questions. So again, I have a master's in English, in creative writing. So my background is, in the creative space. And if you go and talk to our data scientists, they try to drown you in language around statistical significance and stuff. And guys, I got a C in stats. So, everyone's got their strengths, right? I've got mine, you've got yours. But in order for this to work, in order for marketing to work in the future, we have to talk in the same language. Data scientists have to really come alongside marketing to make sure that we're all headed towards the right goal. Otherwise, things are going to get pretty discombobulated. So, and I'm joking here a little bit about our data scientist team, as we know. So, okay, so let's go through some language that you'll need to know to make sure that you're relevant and asking the right questions. So we're going to use this sample brand called Spoke over here, and let's make sure that you understand some key data science terms. The first one is computer vision. And computer vision is simply the way that a computer sees. So if you look at an email, you might identify certain things. A computer is going to say, all right, this is an image. Up at the top, there's a logo, there's a product description. It'll identify a bike or a biker or maybe a man or a woman. And then it'll also identify things like attributes of the message. So this is great. However, you need to make sure that the computer vision model is accurate in describing the content that you are putting in front of it. So understanding what computer vision is, of course, is important, but also how the computer vision is being tagged within the message is going to help you get an accurate model and help you do your job better. So understanding how your computer vision model works is really, really important. The second thing to know is NLP. Add this to your acronym list, natural language processing. It's how a machine reads content. And it's simply the way that it can interpret the tone or the number of verbs or the number of characters or number of emojis. NLP is the way that content is read by a computer and then spit out with some attributes of it. Now, NLG, natural language generation, you might be familiar with that term already, where it's generative messaging. People sometimes say NLP and NLG in the same sentence, so be aware of that. An algorithm, we hear all about algorithms all the time, but it's simply advanced statistics that makes a prediction about something in this case. And in this case, the algorithm is predicting that there's a 96% match between audience and content for the left. For the right, it's 82% match and a 76% match. So we talk a lot about algorithms. They can do all sorts of things, but in this case, it's a predictive algorithm that is just some advanced math. Now, you don't want me creating an algorithm, but I can help define what the algorithm output is. So my role within marketing. Fine-tuning is again part of many, many sentences in the digital marketing space today, especially as we talk about large language models or LLMs that need to be fine-tuned specifically for a single purpose. So a broad or generalized LLM may be irrelevant and result in really bland or boring content for your brand. But if you're Spoke, you want a fine-tuned model that speaks in the language that an avid outdoor bicyclist would be interested in. So in this case, it's fine-tuned to create aspirational or aggressive content up on the top, where we're seeing the language unleash the beast, versus technical language, where we're talking about the technical specs. It's fine-tuned to speak in that language. All right, the last piece is this Louvain community detection model. And this is one of many models that are used to take large groups of individuals and identify attributes about them that are similar. In marketing, we often go to our old favorites like RFM, or we'll do some sort of demographic or psychographic profiling. An advanced data science technique like Louvain community detection can identify groups of individuals who maybe have nothing in common that we can understand, but there's lots in common in terms of the way that they act. So it creates a little bit of a challenge for historical ways that we've done marketing, where we might say that a man who lives in Indiana, who's 45 years old, has these attributes, and therefore I'm going to find other 45-year-old men in Indiana who have similar attributes and market to them in the same way. But we actually might find that somebody like me using an advanced data science model like a Louvain community detection model might find that people in New York actually act a lot like me, or that people who are 80 plus, who are out west, act more like me. The joke is that I maybe have already been an old man for a long time, but there are attributes about us that maybe don't fit into demographic or psychographic profiles. So this is where these advanced models can help. The challenge is, digital marketers, oftentimes we have to explain ourselves. We have to explain ourselves to the CMO, or we have to explain ourselves to the board. Here's why we did what we did. And some of these advanced AI models are black boxes, or they are only understood by the data scientists who often don't speak marketing language. So it can lead to some frustration and confusion and prevent us from actually using the latest techniques to do our best marketing because we don't understand what the language means, and so we just kind of go back to our old favorites. So marketers, please learn these terms, ask about them, sit next to your data scientists, and make sure that you know how to use them to your advantage. Okay, so we wound up here with a little bit of back to school. We've also gone through some terms, so now it's time for you to see a quick demo of our first version of our product. And I'm thrilled that our customers are already using this product. We're just kind of in inning one, so I'm going to show you where we are today, and then we're going to shift actually to future vision, where you can see a roadmap of where we're headed before the end of the year, and hopefully you'll want to come along on that journey. So let's take a look at the generative email capabilities within Backstroke. This is a little demo that I did earlier today, just recorded it for you. And again, we're in the Spoke account. You can select any of the campaigns you've created here, and let's generate some subject lines and pre-headers for this 20% off promo that are predicted to perform. The first thing that we'll do is scan the message using computer vision and natural language processing, and then understand what type of campaign is this. In this case, we're doing a product promotion where there's a new product, and we're not going to pick a season or a holiday. From there, we're going to go and identify which segment or segments we want to send this to. And we can get to infinite number of segments, but we're keeping it with, let's say, 3 for now. From there, you can then choose subject lines, where we'll generate subject line and pre-header options that are all predicted to perform specifically for the attributes within those clusters. So the VIPs might get that message, or you can press Remix to see options that are also available to you. You can also open the panel to select any of the subject lines and pre-headers. And what makes this different from any other platform that's on the market, and specifically different from ChatGPT, is that they're predicted to perform specifically for the subscribers in that audience. So once you press confirm, you can then publish those into your ESP and then use them to launch all the campaigns that are specifically designed for each subscriber in that campaign. It's pretty simple, and it's based on the idea that we can understand your brand. You can upload a brand guide, you can publish your website, you can select different tone and personality attributes, and then tell us what your copywriters like to use. Like, we never use emojis, or we sometimes use slang, or we like to stand out, or our brand voice is a little bit more corporate, or maybe it's more casual. We also have the concept of negative keywords, where you can say, never say these words, or we want to sound more like this competitor or not like this competitor. And all of that then fuels into the campaigns and into the generative subject line and pre-headers that are available today. On average, our customers see a 31% lift in revenue per email when they use this product, and we know it's just a starting point. And we're rebuilding the ability to send messaging with generative capabilities from the beginning. And we know that a lot of customers have messaging platforms already in place, and so ripping out all of that and trying to change those out is pretty overwhelming. But we can start with subject lines and pre-headers and then move into the creation of actual email content. And that's where we're headed right now with our customers. And our first customers will be officially live in October with the ability to take the clustering and the generative capabilities from subject line and pre-header and into the actual content. So let me show you how that'll work. We're using an example of Perry Ellis, which is a men's retailer, And because we subscribed to Perry Ellis almost 3 years ago, we know exactly what their email cadence is, as well as the types of promotions that they do seasonally as well as day by day, and how that trends over the course of 3 years. We can use all that information to recommend options to them, as well as identify what type of content they're using. So in this brand pulse, you've seen it extended into understanding what are their most commonly used colors, what are the other types of visual elements that go into their brand guide beyond just the syntactical drivers. And then we can use that to create smart campaigns. So it's time at this point to generate a win-back campaign. And the machines know this because we've already spotted that type of trend across the last 3 years in comparison to other men's retailers. So you press create campaign, and you can actually generate campaigns for those same clusters or segments that we saw earlier. And again, I'm going to demo 3, and we can go as infinite as you want, and the ultimate goal is to get to 1-to-1. And the idea here is that you can just select a simple URL, and Backstroke will actually generate the content of that email, which is going to be unique and personalized for each person on the list. Many marketers are using templates where they have the same header, same footer, or maybe they have a set of templates from which they can select. So those templates will be pre-populated here, and then the content simply comes from a product URL into the email, and then the subject line and pre-header are also personalized. So it's really taking a lot of the grunt work, as we talked earlier, out of the email creation process and moving to 1-to-1 in a way that we can actually generate content on your behalf. So here's a quick recorded demo of that scenario on the brand called Spoke. So what we've done here is just plugged in the product URLs where the imagery as well as the language that's used is fully available to the AI. You can put in any landing page or product URL, star the one that you want to be the featured product in the email that we're creating, press generate, and then within a few seconds, you'll see the subject line, the pre-header, and then the full content actually generated for that message. Today, we are not generating the actual image, but instead using images that are coming from your product URLs or from a digital asset management platform or a Google Drive. And what makes this slick is you can press remix, that it will generate options that you might like better. So all of these are predicted to win for your audience. You can still be confident that we're creating content that predicts to win, but you can still have your eye on it, your aesthetic there. And each of those campaigns is then ready to publish into your ESP for deployment. Cool. All right, we're getting through this. I am excited to invite you to join us. And I've built all sorts of software products in my life and in my 20-year career in MarTech. This is the fun part. It's where we find early adopters who believe in this future of generative messaging and who want to put their stamp on it, who want to work shoulder to shoulder with our team that you met earlier in creating the future of generative messaging. It's a way to be on the forefront. It's a way to drive revenue and increased ROI, as well as a way to cement your role and your job as a marketer in a world where AI becomes a predominant force. So today, you can get started with our platform and see lift of between 14 and 64% on generative subject lines and pre-headers that are all trained and predicted to perform specifically for you. And then you can also say, hey, I want to be a part of that group that gets the generative messaging here within October. So we'd love to partner with you. If you want to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm interested, we'll pull you into conversations with our product team and make sure that you're one of the first to get started alongside our early adopter customers. So there are a few ways to stay engaged. One, thank you so much for being here today, for spending time with us, for believing in Backstroke. You can subscribe to our emails. We send out 2 emails a week with all sorts of data in it, as well as other opportunities to learn and stay on top of generative AI. So if you haven't done so, go to backstroke.com and subscribe. You can play. You can just dive into our sandbox. We have made 3 different tools available for you to generate content, to try all sorts of generative capabilities. So please do that. And then the third is we'd love to do a more customized demo for you. So if I can do that, I'd love to do that. You can sign up on our website at backstroke.com. So again, thank you for coming with us to see the future of your job in generative messaging. And we believe that future starts right now. So come swim with us, and thanks for your time today. We'll see you soon.
Sunlit.